LeBron James is currently in the process of once again running through the Eastern Conference for another finals appearance. The question is, when is LeBron going to get knocked off in the East? When is the king going to finally be dethroned one day? And for this video, we're going to look at LeBron James himself and I guess an estimate of when the guy could potentially decline as a player. And we'll also take a look at some of the Eastern Conference counterparts to see, who's going to take LeBron out one day. But when we talk about James first, I mean, the dude's 32 years old, and you could actually make the argument that he's having one of his best seasons in a while. I mean, in terms of rebounding as well as playmaking, he's never been better in those two categories, and his efficiency is the best that it's been in about 3 years. I mean, this is probably the best season that he's had since he's returned to the Cavaliers. And another thing with LeBron, when we talk about just how he can maintain himself as he gets older, he's never sustained any long-term injuries. From a physical standpoint, we've never really seen a guy who's, 6'8", 250 pounds with the ability to move on the floor the way he does. I mean, if I can be honest, part of me believes that LeBron's going to be able to age, more gracefully than anybody else ever has in the NBA. And we're going to look at some of the other greatest players of all time, and maybe we can start to get an idea of when we could see LeBron start to drop off a little bit. Michael Jordan's first real sign of slowing down was the last season that he played before coming back for the Wizards. At the age of 34, MJ, while still leading the Bulls to a championship, they were pushed to a Game 7 by the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then MJ retired the season after. So, I mean, if we're going to hold LeBron to that standard, and I know a lot of people do, then maybe that would be the age we could expect that thing from him. But once again, I mean, where we are in terms of modern medicine and all that, LeBron could stretch his career out even past that. Magic Johnson, unfortunately, his career had to be cut short because of some off-the-court stuff before he returned for just one season. He also showed a little bit of slowing down at the age of 31, as he and his Lakers lost to Michael Jordan's Bulls in only 5 games of the NBA Finals. But LeBron James is significantly more athletic than Magic Johnson ever was. And then Larry Bird, I mean, this is a testament to LeBron's ability to stay healthy. Bird was affected by back problems. He missed basically an entire season and then wasn't the same guy once he came back. As far as we know, James is not having any severe physical ailments, so I don't know if anything like that would happen for him. And I think this would be a testament, Kobe Bryant, to where we are now in terms of being able to maintain guys' bodies. At 34 years old, Kobe was fantastic as he dragged the disappointing Lakers with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash to the playoffs, but this is the thing, he also suffered an injury that would plague him for the last 2 seasons of his career. The Cavaliers are going to have to manage LeBron's minutes to where he's not playing 40 minutes a game for these guys, and if that means that he's going to have to, at times, look on as the Cavs go from the 1 seed to the 3rd or 4th seed, then you have to do that so you can maintain him. So what happened to Kobe does not happen to LeBron James as well. And I mean, if I can just make some sort of estimate, I think next season, at 33 years old, LeBron's going to be fine. I could maybe see a little bit of a decline at 34. Perhaps him maintaining that at 35 years old, and then we would see a noticeable decline from the guy at around 36. And this is me just being a little conservative. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he pushed it even farther than that. But now, of course, we have to talk about his Eastern Conference counterparts, because if LeBron's going to drop off a little bit, someone has to rise up and beat him. So we're going to look at just a few teams in the East and their situations. We're going to start with the Washington Wizards. They're led by John Wall, of course. John Wall is 26 years old right now, so he does have quite a few years left in his prime, and if he can continue his improvement, where he was already great at playmaking and finishing inside, but the jumper is getting better. He looks more confident in that as the day goes by, And if he can really keep getting better in that area, he could elevate himself to being maybe like a top 10 player. You combine all that with his natural leadership abilities. I mean, maybe John Wall is the guy who would be good enough to run into a older LeBron James and actually have a chance of getting the better of him. I mean, Wall has really embraced the leadership role for the Wizards, and he's their driving force. It just matters what his ceiling is. But it also matters how good the rest of his guys are as well. Because I like the talent on the Wizards, but I do think they would need an improvement to really be ready to knock off LeBron James one day. How good can Bradley Beal be? Can he elevate himself to one of the top scorers in the NBA? Maybe he could improve on his defense and his playmaking and become an all-around star. He's having his first real healthy season in a while, and he's been fantastic. And I also have to question Otto Porter. Is he going to be more than just an off-ball player? Can he create his own shot and be the third star the Wizards need? We can move on to the Toronto Raptors, and I'm not going to lie to you. These guys, their situation, it's interesting. First and foremost, I fear the age of Kyle Lowry. He's already 31 years old, and if we assume that LeBron is going to maintain his elite status for at least 2 or 3 more years, Kyle Lowry may just simply be too damn old to deal with it at that point. I mean, I do think he could age kind of gracefully because he's a gifted shooter, but at a certain point you just fall off, and I mean, Lowry is no LeBron James, so I expect a more sudden as well as drastic drop-off from him. I also think DeMar DeRozan just has to be better. Now, I do think he's mastered the ability of scoring inside, using turnaround jumpers, mid-range jumpers, and forcing the other team into foul trouble, but if he could develop that three-point shot and open up the Raptors' offense to the next level, an offense that is oftentimes guys just standing around and waiting for something to happen, that could be the next thing that DeRozan really needs to go at a guy like a LeBron James. But as for the Raptors as a whole, I mean, I don't like Valanciunas as a center. He is not the type of defensive five who can defend pick and rolls that you need in today's NBA. I'm also not a huge fan of Dwayne Casey as the head coach for some of his rotations as well as X's and O's. I don't know, man. Lowry's age on top of not the perfect roster, it could be tough for the Raptors to have a chance against LeBron. Now, the Celtics are very interesting because, of course, there is the Brooklyn picks. And if you can turn one of those picks into a Jimmy Butler or a Paul George, then you would be saying, well, we want to go at LeBron right now. It's a talented roster, and perhaps Isaiah Thomas on top of another top 15 or so player. Is that really enough to go out of LeBron James? I don't know. The guy just went through the 73-win Golden State Warriors in one of the most ridiculous NBA Finals performances ever. Would these Celtics be up to face that guy if he hasn't really declined just yet? I don't know. Maybe they would rather draft someone like a Markelle Fultz with that pick if they end up getting the number 1 overall selection, and that would put them in a great position to be a fantastic team for a long time. But then I think it takes them out of the running of really going through a LeBron James because, you know, a guy who you draft is going to take a while to really elevate themselves. Speaking of elevating themselves, Giannis has done that for the Milwaukee Bucks. Depending on who you're talking to, he might already be a top 10 player in the NBA. His rebounding, playmaking, defense, as well as his physicality and inside scoring have been fantastic for the Bucks. And the scary part about Giannis is he's nowhere close to his ceiling just yet. He's still a non-factor from outside. I think his assists can go up to another level, and he still uses off-ball scoring a lot in his arsenal. So I think Giannis at, 23 years old, I mean, he could be the perfect guy to go at a declining LeBron James. That being said, the roster around him, I don't know, it's a nice team, no doubt, but I do have a lot of questions. Who is his second star? Is it going to be Jabari Parker? He showed signs of being a real scorer before he got injured, but now that he's had 2 significant lower body injuries, who's he going to be? You know, is he going to be a big-time player? Is he going to drop off a little bit? We really don't know with him. I also don't like their center position. I don't think Greg Monroe is the right type of guy for today's NBA there. Thon Maker shows promise, but what really is his ceiling? I think this Milwaukee team is going to have expectations going into next season, and I do think Giannis down the road could really improve himself to being the type of guy who can take out an older LeBron James. But is the team around him going to be ready? I don't really know. And one more would actually be the Philadelphia 76ers. And this is all riding on a healthy Joel Embiid, because with how damn good he was for the Sixers this season, making them a decent team when he was on the floor, I mean, that's just great. And that was only in his first year. You give him a couple of years to improve, he could be a monster at the center position for them. But that health is going to be a big question with him. But also Ben Simmons. I mean, if Simmons is the real deal, and we fast forward 3 seasons or so, could the pairing of him and Embiid, as well as hopefully a decent enough roster, and perhaps a third star depending on how they do in the draft this season, could that be enough to go at LeBron James? Maybe. But even with all that being said, this season, next season, probably the year after that, and who knows how much longer, LeBron James is going to be running the Eastern Conference. A lot of people say he's already the second best player in the history of the NBA. We've never seen a physical specimen like him. Who knows? Who knows how long he can go on this run? Who knows how long he's going to dominate the Eastern Conference?